Hey guys! Welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. All the details are in our video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video before we dive in. Thank you so much for being here, because tonight the buzz is impossible to ignore. A startling confession from Çağatay Ulusoy has sent shockwaves across the entertainment world. The famously private star, who has kept a low profile for years, sat on a talk show couch and let a fragment slip. Just a fragment. That ricocheted around social media in minutes. He started a sentence that made everyone hold their breath, then left it hanging in midair. 10 years ago with Hazal, and he stopped. Not a syllable more. But sometimes a half sentence is louder than an entire interview. The room froze. The internet erupted. And one name echoed across every comment section: Hazal Kaya. You remember, of course. How could anyone forget? Years back, Hazal Kaya and Çağatay Ulusoy stood at the very center of one of the most unforgettable chapters in Turkish television history. Their performances, their timing, the sparks on screen that felt like lightning, it was a phenomenon. When that era ended, both moved forward and rose even higher, each building a formidable career, each mastering the delicate balance between artistry and privacy. Time moved on, awards piled up, and projects multiplied, yet the instant their names appear side by side, a familiar current runs through the audience like a summer storm. That's exactly why that one unfinished line cracked open the sealed box of memories and let it all breathe again. On that program, where the lighting was soft and the questions careful, Çağatay's sincerity hovered in the air. He reflected on the milestones that shaped him, the projects that carved out his path, and the lessons that forced him to grow up fast. Then, with a pause that carried years inside it, he brushed the dust off a time long past. Hazal and I were in different places 10 years ago, he said. His voice didn't tremble, and yet it held a weight only those years could explain. He didn't announce a regret. He didn't hand us a confession wrapped with a ribbon. Instead, there was something steadier, more restrained, the sound of a heart that has made peace with its own history. The part that made everyone lean closer was not the statement itself, but the tone that wrapped around Hazal's name. He spoke with distance, yes, but also with a careful tenderness, a respect that suggested a chapter closed without erasing its ink. Some people step into your life and leave a mark, he added, and every viewer understood the direction his words were traveling without needing a map. He painted the rush of that period, the back-to-back set days, the cyclone of fame that whirls you before you can plant your feet, the way the camera lights can blur the line between character and self. He didn't say they were anything more than co-stars. He didn't need to. Everyone who watched them back then saw how much that moment demanded of them, and how much it gave in return. Naturally, all eyes swiveled toward Hazal Kaya. Would she answer? Would she brush it off with a laugh? Would she post a quiet line on her story and be done with it? No official response came. But those close to her insist that she took it with her usual poise. For Hazal, the past is a complete picture, respected, treasured, and placed on the shelf where it belongs. She has always spoken of her old projects with gratitude rather than sentimentality, and of her scene partners with generosity rather than gossip. So it didn't surprise insiders to hear that she saw Çağatay's line as a wave from a distant shore, not a flare signaling fresh drama. Still, this is the world of speculation, and the rumor mill never sleeps. Some swore that Çağatay was simply sharing a bittersweet memory, letting fans peek for a heartbeat into a time that defined him. Others argued that he chose his words precisely so they would ignite curiosity, hinting at truths he would never fully reveal. The split on social media was instant and dramatic. Let them reunite in a new project, please, just once, pleaded one camp, flooding timelines with edits and throwback clips. The other camp stepped back, arms folded, reminding everyone that the golden glow of yesterday can blur the realness of today. We loved that era, they typed, but they're both thriving on their own paths. That lonely sentence, 10 years ago with Hazal, might never be completed. It may remain suspended, a phrase forever reaching for what comes next. Yet it was enough to prove how deeply a role, a set, a partnership can press into a person's life, and how the echo refuses to quiet even years later. It takes only one breath, one name, for an entire timeline to light up again. And if anything, his hesitation revealed how much remains unspoken, perhaps unspoilable, behind the scenes of a legend everyone still remembers by heart. Within hours, entertainment headlines flew by like confetti. That half-sentence became the story of the day, the gif of the hour, the topic of every group chat. For some, the words opened a door into a warm archive of scenes and songs, a portal back to a time that felt simpler and somehow brighter. For others, they stirred up old questions that never received clear answers, questions that maybe were never meant to be answered at all. Following that broadcast, every old interview and red carpet look of the pair was revisited, dissected, and reposted, as if the internet could knit together a full paragraph from a single fragment. According to those who have watched Çağatay navigate fame all these years, his private mantra during that era could be summed up in a single term: timing. He learned how timing shifts the shape of success, love for the craft, and the emotions charged by the spotlight. He realized the way popularity, when it pounces too early, can rewire how you move through a room, how you speak your truth, even how you feel without your own permission. He remembers how fast everything moved back then, how the schedule's drumbeat can crowd out reflection, how every emotion becomes immediate and amplified. And now, with a decade between then and now, he's able to sift, to separate, to see. These insights underline a possibility fans have whispered for years: what happened with Hazal wasn't just a professional pairing. It was a turning point, a crucible that forged two young talents into the artists they are now. It was a time of impossible pressure and improbable magic, a roller coaster they rode, hands up, eyes wide, without realizing how high the tracks had climbed. Interestingly, the unfinished sentence refuses to fade. It grows larger in the retelling, feeding on new interpretations and backstage recollections passed from friend to friend. Gossip circles say the omission is not a mistake but a decision. That choosing not to say something can, in its own way, say everything. If you've watched Çağatay for any length of time, you know he keeps his personal world fenced off, not out of coldness but out of care. And so it makes perfect sense that he would draw a border around that memory too, honoring it by not turning it into clickbait. Those who know him well insist that when he thinks back on that chapter, he zeroes in on the lessons rather than the longing. He believes that success arriving like a thunderclap forces you to gather yourself faster than you're ready, to feel intensely before you know how to handle feeling it all. He is clear that the years when he crossed paths with Hazal aligned exactly with that avalanche, and that today, looking back, he refuses to gild the past, or to scuff it. He sees it for what it was, without polishing or punishing it. As for Hazal, her silence is loud. If history has taught us anything about her, it's that she resists being dragged into whisper wars. She has never been one to replay old tape in public. People in her circle suggest she thinks of that collaboration as a beautiful story that already has its ending. What matters to her is the life she's built, the craft she continues to explore, the present she protects. She's not interested in opening old windows just because someone else felt a draft. Of course, the moment this conversation reignited, old behind-the-scenes tales began to float up again. The grueling pace. The relentless expectations. The way the public watched their every blink and breath during those feverish years. It wasn't merely a show, it was a storm. The phrase, 10 years ago, doesn't just tell time, it signals the weight that era carried on their shoulders. The long nights, the quick costume changes, the laughter on set that felt like oxygen, and the moments of quiet when the bus ride home felt like the only place in the world without an audience. What made that night on the talk show so haunting is that you could see the story flicker across his face, like a reel only he could watch. He didn't push it away. He didn't chase it either. He just let it pass, and in that calm, the studio sank into a rare silence. The host waited. The audience waited. He didn't complete the sentence. He just smiled, that small, complicated smile that says, "I remember. And I will keep the rest to myself." Maybe that's why the internet can't let go. An unfinished line invites everyone to write their own version of the ending. Some scripts are tender, imagining a friendly reunion on a new set with a seasoned calm replacing the early chaos. Others are cautious, insisting the past be left as a masterpiece in the museum it deserves, not dragged out for a sequel no one asked for. Both feelings can be true. Both can exist in the same fandom, in the same night, on the same timeline. Meanwhile, the career retrospectives angle gained speed. Clips of their first table reads resurfaced. Snippets of cast interviews reappeared, capturing the nervous energy of two young stars standing at the edge of a cliff they were about to leap off together. And threaded through it all was the reminder that legends are not born by accident, they are carved by pressure, by chance encounters, by the chemistry that no one can manufacture. Back then, the lights were brighter, the clock ran faster, and hearts beat harder. Today, both of them know the cost and the reward of that fire. Insiders insist there was nothing cryptic or cruel in his words, nothing designed to stir trouble. The choice to pause was not a tease, it was a boundary. He wanted to honor a chapter without reopening it, to tip his hat to the person who stood beside him during a defining climb, without rewriting what came after. Respect can look like distance. Gratitude can sound like a clause that never reaches a period. Why does it matter? Because audiences don't just watch a series, they carry it. They carry it into their own lives, their own milestones, their own heartbreaks and healings. When he said 10 years ago with Hazal, he also spoke to viewers who were 10 years younger themselves, who laughed and cried with them, who grew up while they did, who learned something about love and ambition by watching these two face forward while the world watched from every angle. That's why the room went still. That's why the comments won't stop. It isn't only their story, it's ours too, in some small way. And yet, the final word belongs to time. The past doesn't vanish, it settles. It becomes a song you don't play for a while, but when it comes on, the lyrics return effortlessly. You hum along, smile at the memories, and then the track ends and you continue with your day. That seems to be where both of them are now, humming, remembering, and moving forward. So will there be a new project, a reunion, a brief cameo that breaks the internet? No one can say. The industry can surprise even the people who make it. What we can say is that the magic of that era didn't evaporate, it transformed. It became experience. It became instinct. It became the quiet poise visible in every role they take now, the way they breathe between lines, the way they carry the camera's attention without letting it carry them away. Maybe, in the end, the elegance lies in what he didn't tell us. In the life he keeps off camera. In the restraint that leaves room for dignity. Maybe the ultimate tribute is to admit that something mattered without turning it into a spectacle. And maybe that's why the moment feels so powerful, because it wasn't a headline he chased, it was a memory he acknowledged and released. A gentle nod to a partner from another time, across the years, across the noise, across a glittering city that never sleeps. If we learned anything from that night, it's this: stories don't need to be complete to be true. A pause can be an answer. A respectful silence can be a love letter to the past. And what they built together on that set, under those lights, remains right where it belongs. In the hearts of the people who watched, in the craft of two artists who grew because of it, in the quiet spaces where gratitude lives without demanding applause. This brings us to the end of our video. If you enjoyed our video, please don't forget to subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets and share it. Goodbye.